The American Freedom Radio Network proudly presents, live from Phoenix, Arizona, The Truth Denied Talk Radio with host Roxy Lopez. Join us here every Friday from 7 to 9 Central for topics you won't hear on mainstream news, such as chemtrails, GMOs, Morgellons disease, and much more. Humanity is 7 billion strong. We are the majority. If you would like to speak to the host, the call-in number is 218-339-8525. And now, live from the Valley of the Sun, your host, Roxy Lopez.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to the Truth Denied Talk Radio. I'm your host, Roxy Lopez, and boy, do we have a show for you today. Oh, goodness. I'm going to get right to it. We're not going to do any of the announcements that we generally do at the top of the hour. I'm just going to bring on our first guest. We've got 2 guests today, and I know a lot of you have written in about this gentleman, and his name is Howard Stein. He is a really good friend of mine. I've known him for quite some time. He's a DJ at 7890 All Hits Radio, and he's a great disc jockey, plays the best music in the world, I swear. And but at the same time, I've known Howard for over 20 years, and he has a lot of information for us. And I want you to keep something in mind. Howard is not selling books, DVDs, doesn't have a website about this. He's a regular guy that started connecting the dots quite some time ago, and because of our friendship, I have asked him to come back on the show. He was on the show a few months ago, 6 months ago, and I must say, out of all the shows that we have done on radio, Howard is the one that show in particular, and you can check it out on YouTube, it's gone extremely viral, and I'll tell you why it's gone viral and why he doesn't have any debunkers on it, because Howard provides all the evidence that we need, and there is nothing to debunk. So without any further ado, I want to welcome to the show my good buddy, Howard Stein. Welcome, Howard.
Hi, Roxy. I'm glad to be back. It's been a while.
It has been a while. Thanks so much for taking the time to come back, because I know you're busy, and you do some fun stuff on 7890. You guys invited me on the show. God, it was so long ago now. It was like a couple of years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we played some cool music. You let me pick like any music I wanted.
That's right. We had a good time that night.
We did. We really did.
Yeah, you were producing from the shadows.
Yes, we were. It was kind of fun. So anyway, we had a particular agenda in mind, I think, with the songs that we chose. But now we have a more serious matter. And this is a serious matter. It's a darker subject, and a lot of people are very interested in it because they have done the homework that you provided last time. Over 100,000 people have downloaded that show, and that's just through our website. That's not even the archive site where it goes straight to. So we'll get back into it because we want to update the public. You know, we're now in May of 2012. The last time we talked about 2012 was, I don't know, like I say, 6 or 7 months ago. So we do have updates. And you start wherever you want, Howard. My concern is I'm still worried about a polar shift. And if you want to start there, you can start there. If you want to back up and start somewhere else, that'd be cool too. That's fine with me.
Sure. We can start with the polar shift. That would be, I'll tell you what, I will start with what a lot of people are crying out different times. They're always saying, where are the signs that this is happening? Where are they? And I'll do a little short recap. 2011, thousands of birds falling from the sky in 3 states, Louisiana, Kentucky, Arkansas, and also overseas in Sweden, Italy, and Spain. And also New Zealand and Brazil, Maryland, tons of dead fish washing ashore. That all happened within a group, if we recall that.
Yes.
Okay, so then we could go to more present day. Yeah, I'm talking signs that something is occurring here that it's not really being discussed. Let's go with March 11th, say 2012. Okay, we have volcanic activity now venting in Utah, Oklahoma, and is why. There's a volcanic activity happening. And April 12th, we could go with the Ring of Fire activating. It's throwing scientists off left and right. Now, the Ring of Fire is a tectonic plate. It's not a fault. It's an actual tectonic plate that goes under we are on top of it, the entire United States, and it goes clear into the Atlantic Ocean. Now, this is activated. Are you with me?
I am. I'm listening.
Okay, and when it activated, this is how it activated. It triggered 5 quakes starting Indonesia, southern Mexico, northern Mexico, Oregon coast, and Japan. The whole ring activated. And if you look at the next day, the 13th, Mount Etna erupts off of Sicily. There's also a volcano forming off the shore of Italy now, under the water, and it's quite large. April 16th, another volcano erupts outside Mexico City. And May 1st, Indonesia, Lokan erupts. So that's just recently. This is just, the planet is screaming out that there are occurrences. And a lot of people say, I find it really hard to believe that we could go through a polar shift. But if they look at the last earthquakes that have been taking place, we have been shifting by degrees already. Each quake has knocked us off our axis. And a lot of people don't understand that. They look at the Earth as a solid rock, but it's not really. There's an inner core that's liquid. It's liquid metal. It's so hot, 9,800 degrees, like taking a walk on the sun. Then you have an outer core, so the planet is structured like a steel ball bearing. We live on the crust above, with a upper mantle just below us. But it is basically a bearing, like a ball bearing. And basically, the pole is moving at 40 miles per year towards Siberia. All indications are we're in for a ride.
Now, and you shared with me, I'm looking at something right now, and I'm going to put all of this into an article and a video so that others can look at the research that you're looking at. But I'm looking at platetectonics.com if anybody wants to follow me there. And it's very interesting. They have a grid of the Earth, and the blue lines show the Earth's northern magnetic field and the magnetic North Pole. It's an artist rendering. And it says the Earth's outer shell is called the lithosphere, and long thought to be continuous unbroken crust is actually a fluid mosaic of many irregular rigid segments or plates. And I think that's what you're talking about. And it's comprised primarily of cool solid rock 4 to 40 miles thick. And these enormous blocks of earth crust vary in size and shape and have definite borders that cut through continents and oceans.
Right.
And so what we're talking about, so that everyone can get sort of a vision of what we're trying to establish here. In our conversation, the oceanic crust is much thinner and more dense than the continental or terrestrial crust. And if you look at this photo on the platetonics.com, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And we'll continue that conversation. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with Howard Stein. We'll take your calls, too, coming up at the top of the hour. This is the Truth Denied Talk Radio. I'm Roxy Lopez. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Truth Denied Talk Radio. This is your host, Roxy Lopez, and we are speaking with Howard Stein. Howard, are you still with us?
I'm still with you.
Oh, great. I can always count on you. So we were just talking about, we were sharing about this Earth's outer shell, and you had a really good way of expressing it about it's like a BB?
A bearing. Just like a bearing.
Okay. Can you express that again? Can you explain that again?
Sure. The planet is almost made up of a bearing. Okay. Picture a bearing, how it operates. You have a round ball in the center. That's a greased little wheel with smaller bearings, and you can spin the outer shell around the center. And that is basically the construction of the planet.
What's moving now is the outer crust.
We are floating on it. For instance, do you recall the Japan quake?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it shifted us 6 feet 5 inches.
Mm-hmm.
The Chile quake shifted us by 33 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, that will affect weather patterns, and there's cause and effect, and that is already it's been shifting. That's the thing I have been trying to get to. The planet has already been shifting. It's been doing it since I believe it was 94 when they documented the first shift, and all this is documented by JPL research scientist Richard Gross and confirmation by NASA.
Now, and what you're saying too, you brought up the Pacific Rim, correct?
Yes.
And so the Pacific Rim seems to be extremely active.
It activated, which it never has in our entire existence and lifetime activated.
Explain what that means.
Unfortunately, I was trying to do a little more research on it, but I was coming up with really bad scenarios that I don't like, and I want to do further research on it. I don't like the word. The northern plate is crumbling. Everywhere you go, it is crumbling. So I'm not thrilled with the word crumble, and I am trying to find out some better sources to really dig into it, which I'm in the process of.
Okay.
But basically, it's been projected that we are in for a polar shift, which has occurred in history. Matter of fact, buttercups were found in Siberia in permafrost in full bloom. So meaning that Siberia was somewhere in the a warm climate, southern climate, and was shifted to the north abruptly because it flash froze a bloom. So this is how fast a polar shift can occur.
Now, you had sent me something on a gentleman named Jim Birkeland, and I thought that was really interesting in Fox News, March 2011.
Right.
Birkeland predicted an earthquake in California for some time between March 19th and March 26th of 2011. And, of course, it goes on to say other stuff. But do you know what
also
Jim
predicted
Birkeland is? Go ahead.
Oh, he also predicted this San Francisco quake 3 days before the quake itself.
Mm-hmm. The San Francisco Bay Area, yes.
Right.
Between October 14th and October 21st.
Mm-hmm.
He predicted it. He also predicted the 6.9 Loma Prieta earthquake.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, what is he predicting anything this year now? Is he sort of disappeared? Because it's interesting. He has been pretty solid, and how you want to tell the audience how he actually judges or is able to predict earthquakes. I think it's pretty fascinating.
It really is, because he is an accredited geologist with over 50 papers published. And he is predicting the quakes by migratory birds and mammals, such as dolphins, whales, seabirds. He's finding that they operate and navigate by magnetic fields. They use it for guidance. Prior to earthquakes, they're beaching themselves. Birds are dying, and they're beaching themselves. So he thought it was hogwash, in his own words, at the beginning, but started taking note and started looking at the data and found out that it's like clockwork.
And then that information correlates with earthquakes of pretty large magnitude. Because I don't think anything I was reading about him he doesn't talk about little ones. He's talking about the big ones.
Right.
So, another thing is he used to work for the USGS, like 6 years, I guess.
Right.
So, so he does have a pretty impressive background as well. So
very accredited.
Yes, very, very, very much so. And I guess what I'd want to know is, has he ever spoken about? I know the news brief that you sent to me. I did watch it, and they interviewed Jim Berglund, and he seemed a little nervous, like in the interview with what the data that he was collecting last year.
It's pointing to.
Yeah.
He sure is nervous. And I don't blame him.
He looks really nervous about it.
If you look around what's going on right now, we are having mass dolphins washing up on shore all over the planet. The most recent one, May 11th in Peru, 877, and 5,000 seabirds found dead on the beach.
And I can validate that and verify that. In my research, there are so many beach whale, dolphin, and birds all over, not just in one area, not just Arkansas.
Exactly, all over the planet, indicating
not only that
there
in animals, lots of different types of animals in different continents, and it is sort of there is a lot of controversy about that, and some people are actually bringing up, HAARP, and you and I talked about this, that could it be HAARP, and those who have been a part of HAARP or whistleblowers that have come to me have said that, and they're providing me with documentation on this, which I find is interesting. They're saying that basically HAARP serves to, one of their agendas is to reverse the polarity of the planet, which has everything to do with the magnetism. And of course, when you and I were talking about it, and anyone that I speak with about it says, why? Why would they want to reverse the polarity? But we'll get into that another time. We can get into that later. So back to this whole polar shift and evidence that supports a possible polar shift. When
well, they're giving process according to 5 ancient cultures. And these ancient cultures, for some reason, were very familiar with calculus, which I find shocking on a college level. Mathematics way beyond me. They have all given simultaneously the same date, and that to me is very strange all on itself, of December 21st, 2012. 5 cultures calling on that one particular day. And we are showing a lot of signs of activity all over the planet. And as I brought up earlier, a tectonic plate, which is big time, is now active. Huge. That is huge. That's almost like to a Californian hearing the San Andreas is coming to life, except a tectonic plate compared to the San Andreas. I'll give you an idea. It's a firecracker, the San Andreas. It's a 500-pound bomb, a tectonic plate.
What does that mean?
The difference in what the disruption on a slip of a massive quake scale, if a tectonic plate slips, we're talking the entire continental United States, Canada, and Mexico experiencing across its borders a massive quake. Every city, every piece of country, every forest, every desert would be experiencing that simultaneous.
Now, has something like that happened in the history?
Yes, it has. They found that it's happened several times, and the way they know it is they've found polar north magnetic rock signatures at the South Pole, meaning the South Pole used to be at the north, and the north used to be in the southern hemisphere. They found magnetic signatures of a southern polarity at the North Pole. So they know it shifted before.
I've seen a few things like that. I actually find it fascinating. Now, with that in mind, what are maybe what we should ask is what the effects are? Because every single part of what you and I are talking about, anywhere from Mayan Hopi prophecy, anything about polar shifts, anything residual solar flares or X flares that cause this kind of activity, HAARP causing the reversal of the polarity, all of these are huge controversies. They have the left side and the right side to each one of these arguments.
Yes.
So when we come back from the break, let's talk more about what do we see in the right now that's coming right around the corner for 2012? What makes us think this is happening right now? We'll be right back with Howard Stein. I'm Roxy Lopez with the Truth Tonight Talk Radio. All right, we're back from the break with Truth Denied here. And again, we've been speaking with Howard Stein. And I want to say something that's really bothering me right now. With everything that we were talking about right before the break with Howard, this apparent polar shift, and of course now we're going to bring it into the right now, with all the ideas, the Hopi, the Aztecs, the indigenous tribes that earmarked, the Mayan earmarked December of 2012 for something. We all know that there was something. And then if you look around us, many activist groups are concerned with environmental affairs and chemtrails, geoengineering, synthetic biology, the NDAA, which is the National Defense Authorization Act that just blew everybody's mind. What Deborah Tavares was just talking about when she came on about the smart meters and this whole grid of control, and signs that the military even seem to be gearing up for something. So, Howard, how could we not pay attention?
The average person, seriously, goes to work, comes back, throws on television, and that's it. And they don't want the world disrupted. And there's a lot of things happening. But, unfortunately, there are certain people that have their eyes open, and there's so many that have their eyes closed. The ones that have their eyes open take things serious, do a little research, take the time, take precautions. They survive. They will survive. The ones with their eyes closed, they will be hit and not even know what hit them. It's sad, but that's the standard.
Now, I was also going to say, the top of the hour, we were going to suggest some open lines, if you're cool with that, Howard.
Sure.
We'll just open the lines. The number to call is 218-339-8525. And if you have a question for Howard, this is a broad topic. So please, by all means, call. Like I said, when Howard came on the show the last time, many months ago, that show, out of hundreds of shows, is just getting bombarded with thousands and thousands of listeners. And it seems that, what you just said, Howard, again, the number's 218-339-8525. Give us a call. It seems like what you're talking about as well, like when you say, people work and then they go home and then they turn on the tube. It is interesting, of all the topics that I have covered in radio, you're still the one that people have the most interest in. This topic is the most interest. So why do you think that is?
I think people have a gut feeling something is happening. It's not being discussed on mainstream radio. It's not being discussed on mainstream anything. But they have a gut feeling something is going on. And when I started this, I started it to debunk it. I thought it was crap.
Right.
And the more I dug into it, the more shocked I got.
Now, you and I have also, you've mentioned it before as well, that the military seems to be gearing up for something. Now, we get reports from all over the place. We're seeing the military shack up at our local, municipal, and airports where they weren't only a year ago. We have this combination of, C-130s, KC-135s. I mean, these are now encroaching, if you will, into residential areas, flying not very far above homes now. There's a constant influx. You've seen it as well. Convoys of military jeeps, military Humvees. We're seeing a lot of that going on in the last few months. And I know that we brought some of the military back from Iraq, but that ain't it. I mean, we're seeing I explain. If anybody knows this, by the way, please call in the show, because you and I had this conversation a couple of weeks ago, Howard, and you and I don't know what this means. But what the heck is the International Guard doing?
Never heard of it before. I know it's a new organization they don't talk about. And I've been in the Army, never heard of it. National Guard before. All I know is our military is more geared now towards the UN control. than the actual U.S. As a matter of fact, a lot of people are unaware that we have foreign soldiers over here training in our, I'm talking German and Russian, and we have a lot of German and Russian equipment here being stockpiled also.
No, why?
The military is gearing up for something big, something really big. That's for sure.
And can you put your finger on it?
If there is a polar shift, say it just occurs, it will be total chaos. The infrastructure will be down for years to come. And a society doesn't do well at all when they're hungry, and they're starving, and they want to live, and there's no food. A lot of people depend on stores and an infrastructure. That would be gone at a snap of a finger. It's gone those days. Over.
Well,
if you don't have a stockpile, you do not have a plan, you are going to be in a world of hurt real fast.
Right. Well, and there are a lot of shows now like Doomsday Preppers and just a number of shows that are sort of, highlighting. Like, I mean, you nailed it. That why are people interested in this topic? Because on some level, even if they're half asleep, they're feeling like something's not right because things are changing rapidly.
Exactly.
Now, the other thing about it is like on Doomsday Prepper, that show's never going to run out of candidates to be on the show because they're finding that the more they dig in, like they're getting bombarded with emails of preppers.
Right.
And the more that can of worms opens up, the more people are going to start preparing for something. And then, of course, you and I know that if you only have like 2 or 3 or 4 weeks worth of food, you're going down anyway. I mean, you have to show there's so many variables that you need in place as well. So how about this? I know that I know you stay out of the public with this stuff, with answering a bunch of questions to the public after the show. You let the show do its thing, and you stay away from the subject for a lot of reasons, and I understand. Here's one thing that I have seen repeatedly. I don't know if you can talk about it or not, but
I'll talk about anything on the show.
Okay. So people are writing in, and they want to know, where are they going to be safe on the planet? But so where is a safe place to be and why?
The safest place to be would be above the 35th parallel. It's forecasted if there is a polar shift, winds will be up to 400 miles per hour, lasting as much as 30 days, a duration of 30 days below the 35th. They would also have to be at least 1 mile above sea level and nowhere near coastal states.
And
if a polar shift occurred, California, basically, Washington State, Oregon, thing of the past.
So inland. And then you said the what parallel now?
The 35th.
Above the 35th?
Above the 35th, yes. Okay.
And that would be globally?
That would be globally. There would be a wind basically going through this planet at 400 miles an hour below that 35th parallel. They should also be in an area where you would have mountain ranges basically to the west of you and to the east. High mountain ranges as wind buffers.
Maybe that's why the military is building a bunch of stuff under big mountain ranges.
Yeah, they sure are, all over.
That's interesting that you say that. And because of there was a book that came out, Art Bell wrote it, and I believe it might have been Whitley Strieber. I don't recall, but it was called The Coming Global Superstorm, and it was written in the mid 90s.
Yeah.
Real interesting book. And what's so bizarre about it, it was a fictional book, but everything in it's happening.
Yeah.
Everything in that book
all the
is
signs,
now happening.
All the signs I've been reading about are happening. That's the disturbing part. I wish I could debunk it. I really do. I'd settle back a lot easier.
So as
you pointed out, I'm not doing this for CD promotion, no website, don't even really want contact.
Right, exactly. Yet, you decided, early last year that you didn't mind sharing it, and that was cool because I know you were really stuck on that, and I would say, God, but you got to share it. You know what's going on, man.
Right.
And so I appreciate it. I mean, I do. You shared it with me, and I wanted to share it with the world. What are we looking at here in December? Are we going to see from here out, like from here through December? And how do we know that December is it? Other than we've got these, again, the controversy with the Hopi and Mayan and all of the rest.
It goes beyond a controversy. For the Mayans, I take very serious because they displayed a higher form of mathematics, like I said, professor-level mathematics, and these people should have been naked with spears. That's about as advanced as they should have been. But for some reason, they had higher forms of mathematics as far as calculus. They were aware of planetary systems that we just proved in the past few years that exist, just where they said they were. They knew the orbits of these planets that we didn't even know existed. They also referred to a black hole, which was a theory from Einstein that, by golly, they were right about that, too. There is a black hole exactly where they said it is. So they really caught my attention with their knowledge. And they're basically forecasting something imminent that day, and I'm listening.
Gotcha.
And I see all the signs giving it validity now. I mean, when we started out was there should be signs. There are a ton of signs. I'm looking at about 40 signs in front of me. And we're just talking this year alone.
And how do you feel like what's going to be coming up in the next few months? I mean, what are you looking at? How would somebody even prepare? How would somebody prepare for December 21st? What are they supposed to prepare for? Where are they supposed to go? States. Name states. States above the 35th
my
parallel.
state of choice would be Nevada.
Okay.
That would be my choice. Probably Reno, Nevada, in that vicinity. You have... let's see, you have the Cascade Mountain Range to the west, which is quite the mountain range. You have the Rockies to your right. You're in a pocket. You're above the 35th parallel. I think you're close to the 39th, if I'm right. You're 1.5 miles above sea level.
Now, in your research, in regards to Reno, Nevada, or above the 35th parallel, how did you come about all that research? How did you come about knowing to
Somebody in government in an interesting position told me that because I was originally going to go to Denver. They said, no, go to Reno. And I said, why? They just told me to do your homework, and I really can't say what they do.
Right.
But they told me to go to Reno, do my homework, so I flew into Reno and looked at it myself. Now, there's some dangerous spots of Reno, don't get me wrong. You don't want to be in the northern area where there's a nice dam that you don't see. You got to do your homework. You really do. And, of course, you have Tahoe up above. So that's something to consider, too. But as far as preparation goes, you should be able to have enough food storage to feed a person for 1 year. Each person, at least a year minimum. And I'm talking, you could do it cheap. You don't have to go out there and spend all kinds of money like a lot of people would love you to do. You can pick up food containers and pack it with rice, brown rice, and beans. There's starch and proteins and the rest. Anything that flies, crawls, walks, swims, you eat it.
What about water?
Water, you should at least have minimal container that would hold 55 gallons, just to start out with. And you have to basically go to the internet. I know how to do all this stuff, but you need to know how to purify water, how to take water from a stream, a lake, even a cesspool if need be, and how to clean it to make it drinkable, which it all can be done. Knowledge is golden. If you know what to do, you don't have problem. Well, you have difficulty, but you come out okay.
Is it still going to be 300 to 400 mile an hour winds above the 35th parallel?
Below the 35th. Below the 35th parallel. If we went into a rapid polar shift, it's calculated 400 mile an hour winds sustained up to 30 days.
And then above the 35th parallel, which you've been referring to, which is Reno, Nevada, or Tahoe, what would the winds be like up there?
It's uncalculated, but it would be high winds, survivable, but you have mountain ranges to deflect the stream of wind. Okay. Basically, it'd be hitting cascades and jetting up into the atmosphere. It would almost act like a spoiler of a car, taking the airflow and elevating it over you.
Now, do you know if at that point, with those types of winds, would it get cold?
According to where we're going to wind up, we should be somewhere around the equator. The United States would be estimated to wind up somewhere where South America is positioned.
And it would, and this sort of wind and
would go tropical.
Yeah, nice. The tsunamis and all the rest of it, and the Earth kind of. So, would the crust be breaking apart? Would
over the place? Okay. And we're showing signs. Like I said, 3 states now are showing venting. Volcanic venting are taking place in Utah, Oklahoma, Missouri. That's the Midwest.
I really want to talk about that as well, because that's really interesting that's starting to break open. We'll be right back after this short break. We're back with Howard Stein, and we're just getting into the nitty-gritty right now. We're talking about the U.S. and some of the signs right here in the U.S. We've covered quite a bit already, and of course Howard is really good at do your homework, and that is the most important part, because this isn't doom and gloom coming from my pal Howard here. This is something really that again, we're close friends, and Howard's been talking with me about this for more than a couple of years at this point, and never tries to freak me out. It's just knowledge is power, and I think that's where you're coming from, right, Howard?
Always.
Knowledge is power. If you know something, do you think that higher level government or government officials know about this?
Without a doubt, they know about it, because there's been so many signs of preparation with laws being passed, utilizing military forces, foreign military coming in, excavation by government in so many areas, evidence of excavation. They do know. I'm sure of it, and you got to understand, if I was in their situation, I'd be doing the same thing. You can't acknowledge this. Just think what it would do to society if you said, hey, your property is going to be leveled. Would you pay your mortgage?
Right. There's anything like this when it's a global catastrophic event.
It would cause panic. It would collapse. I think it would be worse than a disaster.
So a lot of people don't even really believe that anything's coming. So and
I hope they're right.
Matter.
I hope they're right.
I do too. Now, within the United States, and we will talk about the NDAA just to prove another point. But within the United States, with this the 3 states that are venting, it appears that it's volcanic. Is that correct?
Yes, it's volcanic activity under the states now, which is just new this year, of Utah, Oklahoma, and Missouri. Plus, Yellowstone is rising big time in Wyoming, and that's huge in itself. And to give you an idea what's going on around the world, an average year we usually have 4 volcanoes that are active throughout the planet. Of course, Hawaii 24/7, your homeland, girl. Mm-hmm. But right now we have 29 erupting and 22 activating this year.
And in your opinion, with the research that you've done, is that unusual?
Considering the norm is 3 to 4, to see 29 that are in eruption stages now and 22 more on their way, that is off the wall. That's off the charts.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds really off the charts. And has there ever been any kind of activity like this before in recorded history that you know about? So none. None. Okay.
0.
And is any of this relative to, do you think, in your opinion, I don't know if you've looked into it, Is any of this relative to what's happening with the sun as well?
I was going through the dates because we've been having solar flares, and a lot of people are believing that the sun is going to be the big problem. But all these, the fish, the birds, the quakes, they don't coincide with the flares. I was trying to line them up. I was doing that for quite a few hours, trying to see if there's a pattern there. None.
Yet we do have a particularly
active solar. Yes, we sure do.
We do, and it's possible that the sun would be a catalyst.
It could be a catalyst, but I'm not seeing the events and the flares lining up, coordinating. But that doesn't mean it's not affecting things. Right,
and this venting that's going on in Utah, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Yellowstone, in Wyoming, is that? I'm not getting reports on that. I get a lot of reports. I get a lot of people emailing me. The people that live in those states, do you know? Are you reading anything? If those individuals are concerned about this?
No, it's not really being discussed anywhere. You have to do some homework and start digging.
Right.
And there's reports. What areas of the states? I'm not sure. It's probably obviously not a populated area, but it seems to be venting taking place. They're finding venting, which means magma.
Of course. In dormant volcanoes, no doubt.
Right. There's a lot of magma all of a sudden. Things are heating up, and that's not a bad pun. And my concern is Yellowstone, too. I mean, that thing, they said since 2004, it's accelerating. Mm-hmm. And that thing is phenomenally scary, huge, and big. It's known as a super volcano, an extinction-type volcano.
Yeah, that's definitely been a mainstream concern. I mean, that's something that a lot of people have been talking about for quite a few years. That it wasn't a matter of when it was going to, if it was going to blow, but when it was going to blow. So that's always been a concern. Now, in keeping in mind what you said, like if they being the PTB or whoever, let the cat out of the bag, there would be just absolute global chaos. So that would actually be, and I agree with you, that would be even probably a worst case scenario, because it would be just like war after war and craziness.
It'd be a total breakdown of society, rioting, looting.
Yes. So is that possible? Is there a possibility that on December 31st, 2011, when the president of our country signed the NDAA and added several executive orders that just keep popping up and adding to this National Defense Authorization Act, there are some pretty eye-opening paragraphs in that NDAA, one of which is which is not mainstream either, but it is being talked about in alternative media quite a bit, which is the authorization of the military. For the first time in the history of the United States of America, military is now authorized to arrest civilians on U.S. soil and then detain them indefinitely without any sort of investigation whatsoever.
And there's more, and relocate populations.
Right. Let's talk about that. What to concentration camps?
Or just to relocate, not necessarily a concentration camp, but to relocate. Basically being forced at gunpoint, you are now going to relocate. End of tune. It gives them the legal, and they're well within the laws now to do that. These laws are being passed for a reason in mind. Laws like this are being written for an idea in mind, a purpose, an agenda.
Whether it be they see a reason to beef it up in the United States. I mean, there's controversy about that as well, that that we are, citizens are now being called domestic terrorists, I mean,
right.
It's unheard of. And then, of course, they're passing like CISPA, all of these different laws, like you said, that basically incriminate a pretty sane and citizen, who's not really doing anything wrong. The part I don't like about the NDAA is that they have thrown out your ability to have rights or due process. They've thrown that out. They can literally come to your door, knock on your door, say, get in, take you away, and you can possibly never be seen again. The other thing I don't like about it is they do talk about the concentration camps within that law. They do talk about them in respect to the fact that they're also hiring at these concentration camps, and they have been for quite a few months now.
Yes.
And then Guantanamo. Okay, now if anybody does their homework on Guantanamo, wasn't the president like over a year ago supposed to shut down and release all of the Guantanamo prisoners? Well, why is that now open to actually arresting somebody on American soil, an American citizen, and actually, that's one of the electives to ship them off to Guantanamo?
Because
I thought the place was supposed to be closed.
Yeah, to switch his little phrase away that a lot of people bought into, because I can.
The only reason why they can do any of this or pass any of these laws is because the American people aren't standing up and saying, no, you can't.
But they passed the law anyway, didn't they? He said he wouldn't. There was a lot of controversy on it, and he vowed, I will not pass it with this in the bill. What did he do? He signed it and slipped off on vacation. It's law now. Military can't arrest you, and it's fully legal. But then again, if they're preparing, say, for something where a society does go wild, you might say, they've created laws to basically round up anyone lawless and throw them right into a concentration camp. They won't be handing you a sandwich saying, I bet you had a rough time. If you're a menacing person out there with a gun, robbing and killing to survive, when the military does intervene, they will round you up, throw you in a container, and probably get rid of your butt real fast.
Well, there's a concern for that as well. We haven't really begun to see the implications of this law yet, this act yet.
I know, and they're training the military spin training, South Central Los Angeles, and Marine Corps with LAPD. They're getting used to putting their hands on the public.
Right. Which is something new as well. I don't know of any other country that operates this way but North Korea.
I think they're gearing up for a biblical disaster. I really do. And they're passing all the laws and making the framework where everything they do will be justified, legal, and prosecution-free.
So if this is the case, and let's just, for this sake of conversation, assume that it is, that there is something coming this year.
I just hope to hell I am so wrong, and all the disbelievers are right. I will crack a bottle of champagne and really relax.
Well, and let's go with that. Let's say it doesn't happen. Let's say December, the whole month comes and goes. Then at the same time, we still have concerns. We still have major concerns. I
know, but a premonition of a huge, major, catastrophic event that has been predicted by ancient cultures, almost of an extinction level, not happening, I will be relieved and just move on with whatever I need to deal with from that day on. It will just be a nice relief.
Well, yeah, I think it would be a relief for anybody who has been sort of going down the rabbit hole with this.
Right.
I think, hoping that it doesn't happen, doesn't take place. At the same time, I think that in that, I don't think you'll just stop right there, though, Howard, knowing you.
No, because there's a lot of things, but I will relax about this topic, this subject.
Because this is pretty much lights out.
This is lights out. This is the knockout punch. This is a huge knockout punch. And if it doesn't happen, I'll be quite relieved. And like I said at the very beginning of this, I thought it was a crock of crap, and I would just want to blow it out of the water. The last thing I would ever predict when I first started this was that I would be believing it will occur. I would laugh
Sure.
at the idea if you told me that a few years ago.
Right. How did it come to your attention?
In conversation, and I thought it was the most ridiculous idea I've ever heard. And it was a person in tune talking to me, and I basically thought it was absurd, and I'm going to just prove all this crap wrong that you were telling me. And started doing some research. I call it homework. And then I'm starting to confirm things that they were saying. Then I am kind of seeing what was being warned occur as signs. And it's starting to get a little spooky here. So I'm
Right.
seeing things occur that have been forecasted several years ago occurring left and right. And it's increasing. And I was just shaking my head saying, it looks like there's something to this, unfortunately.
Now, with that in mind, that there is something to it, and like you say, you have made preparations.
Oh, yeah.
And
It'd be a fool not to.
Right. You've made preparations, just so the audience knows that. I know what your preparations are.
Right.
I know what you're doing. So you've made preparations to protect you and your family.
Right, and some friends. And can I give the people out there a tip if they decide I want to start preparing?
Yes, and we can talk about that right when we come back from the break. We can totally talk about that. As a matter of fact, that's perfect timing to say something like that, because we do need some encouragement here. I would definitely love to hear more about that. We'll be right back. Real dark subject matter here, but we've got some light coming around the corner after this break. We're talking to Howard Stein about the coming days, the remainder of 2012. The possibilities are endless for December of 2012, and a big possibility of a catastrophic event such as a polar shift that'll wreak havoc on this planet. Howard, you were just about to mention tips. You wanted the public to have some tips in the case that they want to prepare themselves.
Yes. Unfortunately, there's people out there willing to make $1 on you, and don't go along with it. Don't go to these sites, on these survival sites, to get these kits. All it takes is containers, rice, and beans. Calculate how much food you need per person for 1 year. Simple plant seeds, and basically all you need is shelter, which you can purchase mobile shelter. You can purchase food in bulk, very cheap, rice, beans. It could sustain life. Just those two alone. A weapon for self-defense, a weapon for hunting, and fishing equipment. And basically little things that you, of course, water containment. And think of medical needs, too. And that should cover you. Don't fall prey to these people trying to make a buck, trying to sell you everything under the sun. Fabulous pre-meals. You could spend tens of thousands of dollars, and if nothing occurs, winding up with it sitting in a closet or garage.
Now, when you're, and that's a good point. That's a really good point to make. When you're preparing for something like this, and obviously you're going to relocate if you do not live above the 35th parallel, wherever you are on the globe. How do you manage to transport all of this stuff, and where are you transporting it to? Obviously not another house. No, I'm not. I am I will be heading towards Nevada myself, and I'm loading the vehicle with enough provisions, everything I need, right in my vehicle. Mm-hmm. And then, like I'm heading out there. The purchase food, rice and beans for a year. Right, rice and beans, water, for hunting, weapons, and fishing supplies. Right. Something for water containment. The means to make fire. And then something for medical. And antibiotics, pain pills, bandages. And then as far as basically what you're doing is you're taking your best chances is what I'm seeing you do. Exactly. Howard. No guarantee. And there's no guarantee that you're going to survive it. Not one bit. Right. And there's no guarantee that. But you've said something very interesting to me, and I really love this about your vision. I said, well, and you said, well, if it happens, A, you're doing everything you can to survive, you and your family.
Correct.
Then if you do survive, and this is where you and I kind of had it out again, I said, well, who would want to survive that? You know, who would want to survive this polar shift, man?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be here for that. And you said to me, you have a vision for the aftermath.
Yeah.
And what did you tell me about that?
It would be a process of rebuilding.
And you really see yourself as someone who would also have the ability, the strength, and courage, and the mind for it to be around, right?
Yes, stars don't exist. Yeah.
So there's not just surviving the catastrophic, the global catastrophic event. There's the aftermath, and then there's the cleanup, and there's the rebuilding. So that's an interesting thing. Now, that's something people don't usually talk about. They talk about the doom and gloom. It's going to end. We're going to hide. Da 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 da. They don't really.
If something like this occurred,
after
a lot of survivors and a lot of rebuilding to do.
And you see yourself as one of those rebuilders.
Yeah. I wouldn't be out in the desert area just to survive and see the sun come up. What kind of life's that?
Right. So
one thing I got to say, though,
at that point, you people need to hook up with Howard if it really does happen, because
one thing I got to say, though, I got to point this out. I get so many people that say, I went through that with Y2K, the doom and gloom, everything that was going to happen, and nothing happened. That was a man-made incident, for one. Number two, 6 or 7 years before it was found out, and billions of dollars were spent to prevent anything from happening through reprogramming. So that's not even applicable. Don't even use that. If you're out there, and don't approach me on that one. It gets used often with me.
Right.
Y2K.
I do like your attitude. So, and people need to listen to your attitude. Your attitude isn't, the sky is falling, It's like, hey, there's some serious signs. You've been doing your research for a couple of years. You've been connecting the dots. You prepare for what maybe could occur. If it doesn't happen, like you said, pour the champagne and move on. And there's other things that you're going to actually be working on. Your eyes are open, you're wide awake in dreamland, and you're not going to just stop. It'll just be one thing down, one thing that you can cross off the list, I guess, right?
Exactly. And for the ones that want to sit back and kid around and say, I'm going to throw a doomsday party in my yard, and we're going to party out. If it goes down, you can kiss your goodbye. You're toast. You took it as a joke. Bless your hearts. If it does go down, you're gone. So enjoy that party.
What is the most striking evidence that made you say, uh-oh?
The planet activating. The entire planet is activating.
And is that when you said to yourself, uh-oh, this is really happening?
Well, I was basically what I read, say, 3 years ago, what will be the events of occurring to show signs of it. For instance, one I read years ago would be an activation of a tectonic plate. You would show it coming to life. And poof, this month it came to life, and my jaw dropped when I saw that one. That's a big one in my eyes. And the acceleration of volcanic activity through the planet. And like I said, the average volcanoes that are active is 4 usually, tops 4. And we're at 29, with 22 more en route to erupt, bringing it over 50.
That's pretty heavy. That really is pretty heavy.
Yeah, 50 volcanoes.
I wasn't even aware of that, and I'm a researcher. I wasn't aware that there were that many,
Yeah, I know. It's shocking. And this is what was projected years ago would be occurring.
We have a caller on the line,
sure.
Howard. and I almost missed it because I'm so into what you're talking about. So let's see if we can bring on the caller. I believe this is Denise. Welcome to the Truth Denied Talk Radio. You're with Roxy Lopez and Howard Stein. What can we do for you?
Hi. Well, I just wanted to say I'm really enjoying the program, and I have done my own research, and the Mayans undoubtedly were just so advanced, for their time, and we seem to acknowledge so much of what they accomplished, but so many people want to just go, oh, but they're wrong on the 2012 thing. They're so smart, but they got that wrong. Why would they have gotten that wrong? It just doesn't make sense to me. And that I also agree that it's so important to look to this as it's a cleansing. Mother Nature is doing a cleansing, and we get to do it over. And hopefully, we do it a whole lot smarter. And I'm so grateful that he sees this as an opportunity.
Oh, that's wonderful, and I appreciate that. I'm sure Howard does as well. Did you have any questions for Howard, Denise?
Well, the only one is that I keep my research and just intuitively that 6-6, that this transit with Venus in front of the sun is going to really have a huge impact, huge. And I don't know why I dream about it, and it's almost like, is that going to be the big deal? And maybe in December, it's going to be more towards that end. We're going to start to fight, and maybe that's the new beginning date. I don't know. I'd like to have this opinion.
Absolutely, Denise. And Howard, do you have an opinion? We've got like less than 60 seconds to go. So
Denise brought up something that I should have mentioned. Thank you, Denise, for this. Uh-huh. The Mayans were very advanced in all aspects, planetary, planets in the Milky Way area, right down to knowing orbits. They are right on so many things. Why would they be wrong on just this one item when they have been right on everything we have gathered from them?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's a good point. It's a very good point, Denise. I'm glad that you have somebody like Howard. Howard's been really laid low on this, and for those of us who have had the opportunity to see Howard's research on it, it's amazing. And I'm glad, Denise, that you're aware. It sounds like you're very aware, and your voice sounds very happy that we have the opportunity to change the world.
Well, I'm new to this. It's really just been 3 years, but it's been an intense 3 years, and a lot of stuff's just been thrown in my face. When you look at it.
Bye. Mahalo nui loa for calling. Thanks so much, Howard, for joining us today.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. And Howard, I'll be talking to you soon. Thanks so much.
No rules. No rules. No taboo topics. No taboo topics. No fear of doom. No fear of doom. We are American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
Yes. Okay, so then we could go to more present day. Yeah, I'm talking signs that something is occurring here that it's not really being discussed. Let's go with March 11th, say 2012. Okay, we have volcanic activity now venting in Utah, Oklahoma, and Missouri, which this is new to us. They don't know why. It's obvious why. There's volcanic activity happening. And April 12th, we could go with the Ring of Fire activating. It's throwing scientists off left and right. Now, the Ring of Fire is a tectonic plate. It's not a fault. It's an actual tectonic plate that goes under we are on top of it, the entire United States, and it goes clear into the Atlantic Ocean. Now, this is activated. Are you with me?
I am. I'm listening.
Okay, and when it activated, this is how it activated. It triggered 5 quakes starting Indonesia, southern Mexico, northern Mexico, Oregon coast, and Japan. The whole ring activated. And if you look at the next day, the 13th, Mount Etna erupts off of Sicily. There's also a volcano forming off the shore of Italy now, under the water, and it's quite large. April's
great disc jockey, plays the best music in the world, I swear. And but at the same time, I've known Howard for over 20 years, and he has a lot of information for us. And I want you to keep something in mind. Howard is not selling books, DVDs, doesn't have a website about this. He's a regular guy that started connecting the dots quite some time ago. And because of our friendship, I have asked him to come back on the show. He was on the show a few months ago, 6 months ago, and I must say, out of all the shows that we have done on radio, Howard is the one that show in particular, and you can check it out on YouTube, it's gone extremely viral, and I'll tell you why it's gone viral. And why he doesn't have any debunkers on it. Because Howard provides all the evidence that we need, and there is nothing to debunk. So without any further ado, I want to welcome to the show my good buddy, Howard Stein. Welcome, Howard.
Hi, Roxy. I'm glad to be back. It's been a while.
It has been a while. Thanks so much for taking the time to come back, because I know you're busy, and you do some fun stuff on 7, 8, 90. You guys invited me on the show. God, it was so long ago now. It was like a couple of years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we played some cool music. You let me pick like any music I wanted.
That's right. We had a good time that night.
We did. We really did.
Yeah, you were producing from the shadows.
Yes, we were. It was kind of fun. So anyway, we had a particular agenda in mind, I think, with the songs that we chose. But now we have a more serious matter. And this is a serious matter. It's a darker subject, and a lot of people are very interested in it because they have done the homework that you provided last time. Over 100,000 people have downloaded that show, and that's just through our website. That's not even the archive site where it goes straight to. So we'll get back into it because we want to update the public. You know, we're now in May of 2012. The last time we talked about 2012 was, I don't know, like I say, 6 or 7 months ago. So we do have updates. And you start wherever you want, Howard. My concern is I'm still worried about a polar shift. And if you want to start there, you can start there. If you want to back up and start somewhere else, that'd be cool too. That's fine with me.
Sure. We can start with the polar shift. That would be, I'll tell you what, I will start with what a lot of people are crying out different times. They're always saying, where are the signs that this is happening? Where are they? And I'll do a little short recap. 2011, thousands of birds falling from the sky in 3 states, Louisiana, Kentucky, Arkansas, and also overseas in Sweden, Italy, and Spain. And also New Zealand and Brazil, Maryland, tons of dead fish washing ashore. That all happened within a group, if we recall that.
The American Freedom Radio Network proudly presents, live from Phoenix, Arizona, The Truth Denied Talk Radio with host Roxy Lopez. Join us here every Friday from 7 to 9 Central for topics you won't hear on mainstream news, such as chemtrails, GMOs, Morgellons disease, and much more. Humanity is 7 billion strong. We are the majority. If you would like to speak to the host, the call-in number is 218-339-8525. And now, live from the Valley of the Sun, your host, Roxy Lopez.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to the Truth Denied Talk Radio. I'm your host, Roxy Lopez, and boy, do we have a show for you today. Oh, goodness. I'm going to get right to it. We're not going to do any of the announcements that we generally do at the top of the hour. I'm just going to bring on our first guest. We've got 2 guests today, and I know a lot of you have written in about this gentleman, and his name is Howard Stein. He is a really good friend of mine. I've known him for quite some time. He's a DJ at 7890 All Hits Radio, and he's a
16th, another volcano erupts outside Mexico City. And May 1st, Indonesia, Lokan erupts. So that's just recently. This is just, the planet is screaming out that there are occurrences. And a lot of people say, I find it really hard to believe that we could go through a polar shift. But if they look at the last earthquakes that have been taking place, we have been shifting by degrees already. Each quake has knocked us off our axis. And a lot of people don't understand that. They look at the Earth as a solid rock, but it's not really. There's an inner core that's liquid. It's liquid metal. It's so hot, 9,800 degrees, like taking a walk on the sun. Then you have an outer core, so the planet is structured like a steel ball bearing. We live on the crust above, with a upper mantle just below us. But it is basically a bearing, like a ball bearing. And basically, the pole is moving at 40 miles per year towards Siberia. All indications are we're in for a ride.
Now, and you know, you shared with me, you know, I'm looking at something right now, and I'm going to put all of this into an article and a video so that others can look at the research that you're looking at. But I'm looking at platetectonics.com if anybody wants to follow me there.